Hi guys! Welcome back to another Colorful Keto with Dory. We're listening to The Key by Honeycomb because I think we might have the key today for you. Oh goodness, I had to giggle. We are going live today with Dr. Billy Mitchell. I'm so excited. Let's get him in. And we are going to talk about the correlation between gluten and our love life. And I know you guys are waiting for this chat. We had a little bit of a chat with Nancy about this, but we need to hear what the doctor says. Dr. Billy, do we have sound?
I've got sound. I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, I love it. We're so excited. So this time you're officially Dr. Billy Mitchell.
That's right.
Do tell.
My license and NPI numbers coming soon.
I'm so excited. I saw your grad pictures. They're amazing. Tell us how fun it was.
What's that? It cut out there.
Okay, hang on. I have a hair in my mouth. I'm so smooth, Dr. Billy. Look at me being smooth in front of the doctor. I said, tell us how amazing your graduation was.
It was amazing and surreal, and I can't really use words to describe it, but it was just really cool seeing a lot of the people who I started with and how much we changed and transformed over time, and just ready to get out there and help people help themselves.
You're going to change the world, Dr. Billy. I can feel it already.
I'll do my best.
That handsome.
You got going on there.
Right? So we're really excited. I first of all, I have to tell you, check out my sleek new haircut. I got my hair done yesterday, Dr. Billy. I'm feeling myself.
It is fancy.
So today we want to talk to you about something absolutely amazing, because you know what, I hear that cutting out gluten and junk food could help our love life.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you and I had some correspondence about this.
Yes.
And so it has to do with the opioid-like molecules that gluten produces, and essentially you have these molecules produced at the level of the gut. They get into the bloodstream, they make their way to the brain, where they stimulate signals that put the brakes on the menstrual cycle and some of the other hormones that lead to the release of other hormones at the level of the gonads that increase your libido.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing to me. Now, I have a question for you, Dr. Billy. I had a girlfriend who recently started keto, and literally within 5 days of changing her eating, she got a period. Could that be because of this effect that you're talking about? Possibly.
So my area of expertise in this area has to do with autoimmune disease. And so the data isn't very clear in terms of non-autoimmune conditions because of this prolactin secondary effect. So again, gluten tends to stimulate the secretion of prolactin in individuals with autoimmune disease, and that prolactin will affect the menstrual cycle and the libido. So the question is, if you don't have an autoimmune disease, are you predisposed to this effect? And possibly because autoimmune disease is a very vague issue. And there's a lot of people walking around, arguably, who aren't even aware that they have immune system abnormalities going on.
So let's talk about that, because I won't lie, that is something that comes up quite frequently, not only in my group, but in other keto groups that I'm a part of, and some of my friends personally are struggling with autoimmune disorders. So let's start first with the misdiagnosed. How do we know that we have an issue? How do we know that it's an autoimmune disorder?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and I was just on Yvette Briscoe's summit, and looking back, I didn't like my answer because I have a tendency to get hyper-specific. Because these issues are really complicated. Let's be upfront here. And so it just really depends on what we're drifting towards here, whether it's an autoimmune disease affecting the joints or the kidneys or the liver or whatnot. But what I would say early on, there's what we call constitutional signs. Okay? So that would be fever, loss of appetite, changes in weight, night sweats. And if these things are occurring, they're kind of intermittent, they come and go, and they're unexplained, that would make me suspicious that there's something systemic and maybe an immune abnormality going on. And then if we couple that with other things, be that symptoms of low thyroid or joint pain or digestive upset or neurological issues or mood and affect issues, then, we would become even more suspicious.
So my question is, almost everyone that I know dealing with these issues, you just described, I think, every single one of the symptoms that they have.
Oh, really?
Like I think you hit, I was listening to you going, yeah, tick, 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 tick.
So possibly you're attracting all the people with autoimmune disease.
I think so. I have a couple sister groups that focus a lot on that, and I think that's probably why, because it's a personal issue for Robin in Keto for Life. So in her group, we discuss it a lot. Because she struggles. Wendy, in her group, Keto Warriors Journey, she has that issue personally. So I think the best way to deal with it is to just talk about it. But it seems like this weird science-y thing that nobody understands, Dr. Billy. So how do we wrap our brain around what is an autoimmune disease?
So I like to describe it this way. So you've got your homeland security, right? You've got all these different players that make that up. You've got macrophages, neutrophils, T cells, B cells, all these guys that defend your body against two things. So pathogens, it's bacteria and viruses and parasites. And then we've got things that don't belong in the body. So those are toxicants, right? These lead, phthalates, plasticizers, pesticides, things like that. Your immune system has to deal with that as well. So basically, while defending you from those things, there's hiccups, there's abnormalities that cause friendly fire, right? So the Homeland Security is attacking, instead of just the pathogen, oftentimes the host as well.
Okay.
So that's what's going on there.
That makes sense. I've never actually broken that down with anybody, because there's such a wide range of symptoms and disorders. It's so hard to pin that down. So thank you.
Well, the interesting thing, Dory, is with symptoms, a lot of the time they're caused by the immune system. So inflammation is something that we consider to be bad, which isn't really bad. It's just bad when it's unregulated or out of control. And what causes inflammation is your immune system, right? That's what it does to have these skirmishes and combat these pathogens and deal with these toxic things that need to be removed from the body.
So in my old life, when I ate all junk food all the time, and I was sore 24 hours a day, and I took 12 to 24 painkillers a day to get through the day, had I cut in the gluten then?
Well, yeah, maybe. And, just to add a layer here, because I know you and your audience are very interested in keto.
Yes.
There is some preliminary evidence to suggest that ketogenic diets specifically can be helpful in autoimmune disease. So, removed from the carbohydrate inflammation component at the level of the GI tract, there's also some evidence looking at the effect of ketone bodies affecting little pieces of machinery that help coordinate that homeland security, and it's called the NLRP3 inflammasome. So it's like an inflammatory switch, and basically what ketone bodies have the capability to do, according to this preliminary data, is flip that switch off. And I was really excited to see this sort of spill into the conventional realm. So I listened to a pediatric rheumatologist, Holly Ferguson, talk about a chronic inflammatory bone condition in kids that may have the potential to respond. Oh, lights turned off in this room. That may have the potential to respond to this sort of dietary intervention. So there may be some promise to the ketogenic diet in terms of autoimmune disease.
Let's talk a little bit about studies. Because every time someone asks me for a study, for example, I did a collaboration with Dr. Fox recently, and his first question was, Dory, do you know the statistics on how many people keto around the world. Do they keto more here? Do they keto more there? And guess what I found out, Dr. Billy? There's no statistics. So how do we get around the fact, because there are a lot of people and they need the science. I'm not one. I'm a go by dance and feel. But for people who come to you and say, what are your statistics, Dr. Billy? Where do you find these numbers? What do we do when they don't exist yet? They just don't.
So just to make sure I'm understanding your question, I guess I'm not understanding what you're asking. So
my question is, as a people,
dieters.
Yes, as a people, how do we find the studies that are out there, and how do we get people around us to make them? Because every time I look for statistics, they don't exist yet. That study hasn't been conducted. No one has done a tracking of, who uses keto for medical purposes versus not. So you know more about who does the studies and who makes them. How do we bridge that gap?
In terms of getting ketogenic diets on the map?
Yes, and getting the studies that we need to be able to say, hey, these are the solid numbers behind it, because the studies don't exist yet.
Dory, it's not a question that I've given enough thought to give you an answer to, but what I would say is there are clinicians out there doing research, and so I would always encourage people when they go to see their doctors to share with them what they're doing, and you can access yourself a lot of evidence supporting some of these dietary interventions that we're in line with. You can get on Google Scholar, print out abstracts, bring them to your clinicians, and and encourage them to try these dietary interventions in their patients, and then hopefully when they attend their local meetups with clinicians who practice in their range of specialty, they can bring these things up. But it's not something I've thought about deeply. So
I spent a lot of time thinking about it, Dr. Billy. Because people ask me.
Understandably, because I have some reservations, but by and large, ketogenic diets are incredibly helpful, and for a lot of people, I think it's a really good place to start. And there needs to be more work to get these dietary strategies on the map.
And for me, I honestly don't care if you're eating low carb, if you're eating keto, if you're eating vegan. I just want to see people move away from the standard American diet that's all junk food all day long, like I used to eat. So we appreciate getting the word out.
That is a win for everybody.
Let's talk about that a little bit, and how that plays into what you do as a rheumatologist. Because when people come to you for treatment, what's the first thing that they expect they're going to get? Because I don't know what a rheumatologist does. If I booked an appointment, I'd be like, what are we doing, Dr. Billy?
Yeah, so small correction there.
Okay.
I am not a rheumatologist.
Okay,
so
sorry.
I don't want to mislead anybody and tell them I'm a rheumatologist.
Okay.
I've spent time with rheumatologists and rheumatology specialists. I'm a naturopathic physician who sees patients with rheumatologic disease. So a little bit of a difference. So just wanted to clarify that.
No, that's good. Don't let Dory make mistakes.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
When people come to see me, they have no idea in most cases what to expect, because they don't really know what a naturopathic physician is, or what naturopathic medicine is, or what a naturopath does, let alone somebody who's a naturopath who sees patients with rheumatologic disease. So when they come see me, the most important thing for me is to identify what is going on, because the complications of a lot of these diseases are highly variable within cases of the same disease, meaning one case of lupus can be a lot more dire than another case. And then the similarities in complications that occur between different diseases, say between lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, are highly variable. So as an example there, in lupus you can have joint pain. In rheumatoid arthritis you can have joint pain. In rheumatoid arthritis you can have what we call erosive changes, which can pretty much mangle your fingers so you can't type or play an instrument or do whatever you need to do. Lupus, the joint pain won't result in that. So it's really critical that you find somebody who's going to investigate what's going on and identify what the appropriate course of action should be, dependent on that diagnosis. So that's the first thing. And then following that, which is more in line with what we were talking about, is dietary changes. So I like Mickey Trescott and Angie Alt's work, Autoimmune Paleo, and I think that will take maybe 70-80% of people in the right direction. So that should be their initial expectation.
Awesome. And I love that explanation too, because I won't lie, I have no clue about natural medicine. But what that says to me, Dr. Billy, is you're where you go when you go through regular medicine and they say, oh, I don't know what's wrong with you. Good luck with that. And then you move to the next doctor and they say, oh, I don't know what's wrong with you. Good luck with that. So you're the doctor who actually helps you figure out what's wrong?
Right. Yeah, and I would say in rheumatology now they're pretty good about figuring out what's going on. The technological advances help the clinicians come to an answer very quickly. Where patients, I think, are dissatisfied is with the treatment. So basically, it's either you're going to get some kind of what we call DMARD, disease-modifying anti-rheumatic agents. You're going to get Plaquenil. You're going to get methotrexate. They don't use gold or penicillamine anymore. So you're going to get something like that. When that fails you, which often it does for about half of patients, they're going to follow up with a biologic DMARD. And so there's a lot of concern about those because of risk for life-threatening infections, and then there's questionable risk about certain kinds of cancers. So that's really where it is. And I'm not against those medications. In the time I've had to spend with rheumatology specialists that's pretty local to me, I've seen them make pretty amazing differences in people's lives. So, but my preference would be for them to achieve remission without reliance on those. But sometimes you kind of need them as sort of a band-aid while you're getting things in order.
And I think that kind of goes around the board for a lot of the medications that we take. Once we start eating healthy and our body starts working better, we maybe can cut some of them out or lessen them. What experience have you had with that? When your patients come to you and you look at dietary, have you seen that where they're able to?
Absolutely. So a case comes to mind as a student clinician. We had a middle-aged female who was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, which is an autoimmune disease that affects the spine. She had a very interesting presentation. So one of her knees was affected and one of her ankles, and her knee was actually, she was scheduled for knee surgery, so for a synovectomy. So basically they were going to take out a piece of the joint. And she was on Cosentex, which is an IL-17 inhibitor that was giving her some relief but not complete. And she really was nervous about surgery and taking the Cosentex long-term. She had read things online, and her fears were justified. So basically what she did was an elimination diet. She did proteolytic enzymes, VSL3, and I'm not remembering what the other thing was. I think curcumin was aboard as well, turmeric, and really high-dose EPA. So hopefully people wrote those down so they can share them with their rheumatologists. But so anyway, she did that along with some dietary changes, and it was incredible. She went back to the surgeon. The surgeon did a pre-op eval and said, hey, you don't need the synovectomy anymore. So, that's a really isolated case, and, some folks might dismiss that as like Hawthorne effect or normal course of disease or whatever other explanation they want to put in, but she really did a lot of work, and the natural treatment was pretty aggressive. So I put stock in that.
That's amazing. Now, I have a question for you. You may or may not know, because this might not even be your area of expertise at all, but the thought just occurred to me when you were talking, and I thought, do you know anything about calcification of the joints? What causes that and how to treat that?
Yeah, well, so it's not an area I've read about very extensively, but I can tell you what I have read. So the light in my room turned off again. So basically what happens is there's theories about calcium trafficking in the body. So vitamin K2 status is something to consider, right? So K2 is a very specific form of vitamin K that comes from certain animal products. goose liver, certain cheeses like Gouda. There's also MK7, which some people think to do the same thing, which is in natto, which is a soy product.
Okay.
And so basically vitamin K2 provides the building blocks for a structure called osteocalcin, which will ensure calcium gets into the right places, right?
Okay.
Bones and teeth and not soft tissues. Joints would be considered a soft tissue. So the other thing is there's crystalline diseases, which we call, one of them is called calcium pyrophosphate disease.
Yes.
And so you've heard of that?
Yes, this is the specific issue. I didn't know the real doctor names, Dr. Billy, but that's my specific issue. Yes.
Calcium pyrophosphate disease.
Yes.
So basically, we want to do some investigation for other health conditions. So hyperparathyroid issues, thyroid issues. We want to check iron status because hemochromatosis and iron overload will predispose for calcium pyrophosphate issues.
Okay.
Those are the big ones. So.
Okay. But and I'll explain a little. I don't normally steal doctor time for my own questions, but I don't understand.
That's what I'm here for.
I don't understand. I don't consume calcium. I've never consumed a large amount of calcium. I don't drink it. I don't take it as a supplement. And yet somehow I have these bizarre deposits of it all over my body that they discovered after I had an accident, like after a collision. So they suggested that perhaps it was brought on by that, but never, ever, ever in 7 years has anybody ever said, this is what you can do about that to fix it.
Very interesting. Yeah, I don't blame you for asking. I would do the same thing. But hey, here's something to think about. So you mentioned, hey, I don't eat too much calcium.
I don't
take supplements, dietary sources. Well, you've got this massive reservoir of calcium in your body. Guess where it is?
I know all the spots.
It's in your bones, right? So
yes.
It's not about the calcium that's coming and going, although that's some of a contributor, but you've got this big reservoir for calcium in your bones. And so, again, if there's any conditions, that can secondarily impair the movement of calcium around the body, right, and instruct it into joints, then, those conditions could be explaining that.
Oh, I love it. And the reason why I ask is because it can be really confusing and scary. I was originally misdiagnosed with brain cancer. Brain cancer.
Oh, wow.
It took a whole year of stress to realize I didn't have brain cancer. I had calcium deposits on my brain, which apparently are not that harmful. Not a big deal, Dory. Not a big deal. You're not dying. You don't have brain cancer.
Yeah, but hearing that you've got brain cancer is
so bad.
Incredibly. Yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
So for other people, I'm curious to know. If you deal with these sort of issues, that's an amazing answer. I absolutely love it. So what do you have going on in the next couple days, couple weeks, podcast wise, posting wise, that we need to watch out for, Dr. Billy?
Yeah, so I just released an interview I did with Richard Maurer. So I think your audience would really like him. He is he's definitely a low carb and keto advocate. We talked about his book, The Blood Code, and his take on diabetes. So that's really interesting. I've got another one coming out soon with Chris Masterjohn, where we talk about nutritional status. So be on the lookout for that. And I've got a blog post coming up on food allergy panels. So,
Excellent. We love it. We love it. So, for your closing out thought, Dr. Billy, I would like to ask you, how would you encourage people to seek out a more natural treatment, and how do we bring that in our everyday life? For example, a lot of us are used to the standard, this is your health care, or shall I say sick care, because it's like that most of the places. You stand in line, you wait, you do this. How do we change that? How do we look at our health care and bring it to the next level?
Gosh,
the big questions today, Dr. Billy.
It's quite a predicament, and this is something I'd like to sit down and give a lot more deep thought. But I would just say, just do some investigation. Get online and Google naturopath, Google chiropractors. There's a lot of Google functional medicine and integrative practitioners. They don't have to be naturopaths or chiropractors. There's MDs that are doing this, and seek them out. And if you had previous providers, go to after you've seen these integrative and naturally minded clinicians, go back to your other providers and share what they're doing. Link them up. Have a voice in this. The patients, are the ones who experience the results and are the evidence that this stuff works. So that's what I would say for now.
Oh, yay. And then I want to bring it around full circle, because I'm not going to lie. We drew people in by telling them their love life was going to get a little bit better, or it could get better. So I'm all like, what? Can it? So we can't leave without talking a little bit about that. So I kind of want to touch on, for my own self, what were some of the things that I saw that changed, and then have you give us the sciencey side of maybe why I would have seen that improvement. Is that fair?
Sure.
I think we can keep that like pretty, PG-13. We won't kiss and tell, Dr. Billy. We won't kiss and tell. So for me, I would say the biggest change that I noticed is in my energy level. And having a higher energy level makes all the difference in the romantic aspect of my home. So first, we'll talk about the science of why having a low carb or a ketogenic diet would improve your energy level.
Well, let's just talk about simply blood sugar balance, right? So when your blood sugar is up and down and doing all these wild things, your mood is usually crap. You're irritable, you're cranky, you're tired. All these things are a recipe just for, not being in the mood when you get home at the end of the day. So basically regulation of insulin, which a lot of your listeners have heard of, regulation of the hormone cortisol, and more background of a hormone called glucagon. So these are all things that are going to stabilize your blood sugar by virtue of ketogenic eating. And then also just filling in the gaps with nutrient deficiencies, right? So there's a lot of minerals that help balance the blood sugar, and then your B vitamins, which, people are missing when they're eating a less complete diet, basically.
Okay. Now, the other major benefit I saw, weight loss is awesome. Weight loss is great. But I think what I saw that was better than weight loss was my body shifted and changed. And I found that made, Dr. Billy, such a big difference in my love life.
Yeah, and I'm forgetting about something else here, related to that. And that is preservation of a hormone called testosterone, right? So it's the potency hormone in men and women that drives libido. They all play a role to some degree, but namely testosterone. And your body fat is a reservoir for a hormone called aromatase, right? Okay. And so when you have more body fat, right, you have more aromatase, and so all of the testosterone you're producing gets converted to estrogen. And so you have less libido. So if you do a ketogenic diet, it results in fat loss. Your aromatase levels go down. You preserve your testosterone. And guess what? You come home at the end of the night or at the end of the day to your significant other, and you're ready to rumble.
I love it. Ready to rumble is how I roll, Dr. Billy. I can't lie. And I would say the last major change that I saw for me was the lack of inflammation and joint pain. And wow, does that, I'm gonna put it out there and say bendy and leave it out there and drop it there for you, Dr. Billy. Bendy,
flexible, yeah, really important. Especially if you're into the more interesting positions. Well, I'll just leave it at that. But
let's drop that.
This goes back into what we were talking about earlier about the NLRP3 inflammasomes, so ketone bodies, beta-hydroxybutyrate. There's potentially an anti-inflammatory effect removed from just the less inflammatory diet overall. So with inflammation comes stiffness, and this is something I also
the good kind.
This is something that also goes with autoimmune disease. So I mentioned those constitutional signs: fever, night sweats, fatigue, appetite change, also stiffness. Okay, so with inflammation comes stiffness. So decreasing inflammation, less stiffness, more fun in the bedroom.
Oh, if we ever needed a better reason to get healthy, Dr. Billy, you just said it right there.
It's an important part of living. It really is.
Right. We love it. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Billy. We adore you, and we look forward to hanging out again sometime soon.
No problem, Dory. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
See ya.
Okay, guys, how fun was that? and guess what? I think your lives might just be about to get a little bit more fun. Just saying. Let's get us a little Jungle Man Sam to dance out to, because I have a feeling that, we might possibly be in a little bit of a reggae mood after that chat. I think that was a lot of fun. Let's get us some dancey music. And don't forget to check, I just dropped my questions for Dr. Fox. So if you're in the mood for more doctor chat today, and who isn't? Let's be honest. Who isn't? If you're in the mood for more doctor chat, go check that out, and his answers will be up ASAP. So let's dance out. I will see you guys a little bit later. I'm toying with the idea of doing a recipe of some sort. I don't know. I'm getting hungry. That's how it works at my house. So we're going to dance out, and I will catch you guys later. And pause. This is my smoothest moment, just saying. And pause. Oh, thank you for hanging out with me, guys. And if you need a little spice in that love life, you know where to go looking. This with just anyone. Can I see you?